William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I welcome you to another Two Hats special of community events. Let's look in and see what's really happening.
And good afternoon, and welcome to Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis and the on-time Patti Fink.
Shocking, I know.
With time to spare.
Yeah, like she's not panting and huffing and puffing. Our guest today has a lot in common with Donald Trump. Neither one had government experience before being elected to public office. How do you defend yourself, Omar Narvaez?
Well, I did have government experience when I got elected to the city council.
Oh, you did,
I was on the
actually.
county school board, but before that I didn't. But maybe I did because I worked on so many campaigns and with so many elected. So I probably had way more experience than Donald Trump. So.
Oh, easily.
So our guest today is Omar Narvaez. He is Dallas City Council person from District 5. Six, which includes West Dallas, the Design District, and then kind of snakes
Dallas.
around through Northwest Dallas. So I guess we should start with when your predecessor was in office, houses were not exploding. What happened when you came into office now with the gas lines?
So there was a house explosion.
So this
as
is
we all know.
an excuse again.
But no, not an excuse. The house that did explode wasn't in District 6. It was in District 2. But it doesn't matter. You know, we all feel and are grieving with the family of the young girl. She was very vibrant, and she was a cheerleader. She was actually part of the cheer competition that was going on at the convention center, and there was a beautiful memorial done afterwards, and people have really gathered around and helped this family. I do represent the neighborhood, part of that neighborhood.
Your district wraps around that neighborhood.
I wrap around
actually.
that tiny neighborhood. It's literally 2 blocks on each side, or about 4 blocks wide, that is in District 2, and and after that, everything to the west, the north, and the east is District 6. So I've been very much involved in working, with the residents, as well as Mr. Medrano, our Deputy Mayor Pro Tem, and I have really...
Because it's his district where
the evacuations happen and the explosion, but now that we have the gas shutoff area, and that is expanded out from Webb Chapel, on the western border, and the eastern border is Lakemont, and the northern border is Walnut Hill, and the southern border is almost to Northwest Highway. That's a really big chunk of area. It's about 2,800 homes, and these folks are, they're doing better. It was a really big mess and a nightmare of a mess at the very beginning, but things are getting better and people are getting adjusted and they're more calm as Atmos has really started to release information to the folks.
And you guys, I was just going to say, you guys have been really busy on Facebook, giving that information as soon as Atmos gives it. So that kudos to you guys.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that was the biggest thing is, people get really, this is a very scary incident that happened. Somebody died, and you should feel the safest in your home of any place that you're at, and you don't want your house exploding. That's just I don't want yours either. Yeah, just a little basic safety thing.
Okay, so the one question I have to ask on the 1-year anniversary of Brian's death, did 911 answer their phone?
911 did answer their phone. They I don't know if they specifically called, but 911 was alerted, and we had our first responders were out there. I can't tell you, I don't know the exact amount of time, but they were out there very, very quickly. And we were actually alerted as council members within hours of the incident happening. And so of course, you immediately go look at the map to see if it's in your district or not. And I saw it wasn't, but I saw the area that it was. And then Mr. Medrano and I, within a minute or two after that, were on the phone with each other to start to triage what we needed to do. And then with our city managers and public safety personnel as well.
We're always told as homeowners, that as soon as you smell gas, call. Was there any warning about this?
So I don't know about the warning because it did happen kind of in overnight, but I can tell you this is what you need to know, and everybody needs to know, is if you smell gas first know what gas smells like. If it's natural gas that's leaking, it smells like severely rotten eggs. They put a chemical into the gas so that it emits this odor, because gas actually doesn't have a smell.
Right.
It's odorless. So if you smell severely rotten eggs and it's not coming from your refrigerator, then first get out of the house, get out of the building, get out of the area, then immediately call 911, and then after that call Atmos Energy so that they can get their technicians out there to test the area and get it secured.
So really, it smells something, say something.
Yes, smell something, say something, and get the hell out. So, this isn't a whoever smelt it dealt it type of issue. This is a,
They're not saying the real cause publicly. What caused this?
So,
and then I'll give you my take on exactly what caused
So
this.
all we're allowed to say at this point is that, the NTSB, which is the National Transportation Safety Board, which is a federal agency that's independent from, the rest of the government, actually is here in Dallas. They're investigating the entire incident as well as the entire operation. And so unfortunately there's nothing that we can say. Atmos Energy has released that they believe that there's an issue with the fault line and that there's two different soils on either side of the fault line, which isn't typical. And one side is clay, the other side is, sediment and dirt and rocks and stuff. And the fault line just didn't react the way it normally does with all this rain and water, and they believe that's what they're starting to say, but we won't know the official findings until NTSB releases.
And of course, nobody's going to say fault lines, huh? Isn't that where earthquakes take place? And haven't we had more than like California in this part of the country over the last year? And could it be fracking?
Yeah, I've had a lot of people.
Too.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people contact me and with that exact same hypothesis that is fracking, has it caused any of this or added to, and again, like I said, we have to wait till NTSB releases that, and unfortunately it's probably going to be 6 months to a year before we get the actual investigation back. But once we do, we'll know what's going on and we'll be able to hold anybody accountable or make improvements as well if necessary. But right now I think Atmos is doing the best they can to make the area safe and secure for these folks.
So there's been a big evacuation of this area. What's the estimated time that people can come back?
So at this point, everybody can come back to their homes because there's no gas. It's completely shut off. There might be some homes that have some gas still because it's residual. So that means the gas that's still in the pipes or still in the appliances, but there's nothing pumping in. So there's no safety issue. There's no safety factor. There's no way that a home could explode for that. So Atmos is saying 2 to 3 weeks for these folks that they'll basically be without gas, obviously, but that means depending on how your home is set up, you're either going to have no range, you're going to have for cooking, you're going to have no hot water because your water heater won't work, and you may not have heat because of your furnace, dependent on what you have. So 2 to 3 weeks, but people's gas will start getting cut back on over time. So during those 2 to 3 weeks, so you might be in the first phase and get lucky and like, hey, you only had 5 days you dealt with this, and all of a sudden you're back on. I already have a few neighbors that were on the very edges that had their gas off literally for a couple hours, maybe half a day, and then theirs was fixed and repaired.
Theirs was the first street.
Theirs was the first street or the first area, and now they're back on already. But and I have some that I know are going to be 3 weeks, and we've already been told, especially where the explosion happened, those folks might be out of gas, for several months because they have to get everything fixed and repaired because of the complete infrastructure and as well as the homes around that area. But that they're giving these extended period of times, and I think it's smart because it's better to need it or to not need it. And if you get it done earlier, everybody's gonna be happy and like, hey, they got it done faster. There's 120 crews out there right now from all over the country working just in this one area, as well as for about a 2.5 mile radius outside of it, where there are surveyors out testing, making sure there's no leaks, making sure that everything is safe for the people on the edges. Because I can see it. If I lived on, just north on Walnut Hill, I'd want to know why am I not, in that area, and is my home safe? And so they are surveying. So it's very important for people to know that, your area is being tested. Everything's being tested.
It wasn't arbitrary where they stopped.
It wasn't arbitrary where they stopped. So this is what I know is that the main gas line for that area is what they shut off. And so that's what affected those 2,800 homes. And so like in the big neighborhood, which is called Midway Hollow, there's one of the north-south streets that cuts through it. It's not a border street of the neighborhood. It's just a street. It's called Lakemont. That is the eastern border. But the people from Lakemont to Midway, they're in the same neighborhood. And so they want to know why they're not in this area, which I needed to find out. And it's because they're on a different gas main. So they're perfectly safe. But all their pipes are being checked. The surveyors are going through, and that was a question that a lot of them had. So I had to go back to Atmos and ask a lot of questions.
Different streets are on different mains, or different neighborhoods are on different mains.
You could have one neighborhood be on 2 different mains, or 3 different, depending on the size of the neighborhood.
So I guess what they cut off was everything in this main.
In that one gas main, yeah.
That makes sense.
Then that explains something. Quick little story. Me and Danny's first house we got was back in '99 or 2000, and I always joke that Danny sleeps really hard. I'm like, you could sleep through a nuclear bomb, and I'll be damned if one day, Saturday morning, I'll never forget it, the windows were shaking. They woke me up. 2 streets over, a gas leak had blown up a house.
Oh wow!
This was in Garland, but they didn't evacuate us.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't evacuate us. They didn't turn off our gas either.
Did you just carry Danny out? Put him in the back seat, let him finish sleeping.
Well, the thing is, he slept through it.
Yeah.
He slept through
Didn't
it.
even know what
I
happened.
told you, he didn't even know what happened. So I guess that explains why some people have to evacuate and others won't.
Yeah. So what caused that so many people had to evacuate in this one is after the explosion happened, Atmos obviously was out there and they detected leaks all over these few streets, and so they had to evacuate all of these streets. And then, and of course they're cutting gas off individual homes, but that's not like the main is still pumping gas, but it won't go into your home anymore. And then it's just with time they've discovered like there's more leaks and more leaks and more leaks, that it was the best option was let's shut it all off. Even if your home may have been safe and there was nothing going to happen, shut it all off, get all the repairs done. And at that point it just was, honestly, I'm sure it came down to money. It's cheaper to actually replace the entire grid for this main than to...
Well, but all of those pipes...
Each one by one.
All of those pipes were those old pipes that
Correct.
could eventually develop those leaks, and that's the last thing they'd want to happen, have to find, okay, which ones did we replace, which ones didn't we replace?
Right.
I mean, that just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense, and they're going into alleys. And this neighborhood has all alleys, so you got to dig up the alley, and be honest with you, it's very expensive to put it all back together because you got to fill it back up with the clay or the dirt or the soil, and then you got to put the new patch of concrete over that. So it's very costly. So if we can do it once, and then at that point, I think it was do it once and just get it all done. Every home in that area is getting new meters. And then the great part is Atmos is really stepping up and going above and beyond. And typically your home, you're responsible from the meter to your house as well as your appliances. Atmos, actually, before they cut your gas back on, once the repairs are all done, are going to test all the lines from the meter to your home as well as your appliances. And if there's any repair needed in those pipes, excuse me, or the appliances in your home, Atmos on their dime, at their expense, are replacing those pipes as well as repairing those appliances or even replacing the appliances if necessary.
That's really amazing because that can be so expensive. As a homeowner who's in an older neighborhood, like the homes were built in the early 50s, like that's a big deal.
Yeah, on average, just for the pipes is about $4,000. So, in some of these homes, this neighborhood is very interesting because on the western end, it's a little lower socioeconomic homes, working family homes. And then as you go further east, it becomes a little bit more, upper middle class to some very, people that are very, very privileged with the amount of money they have. So you have a very different expanse of folks living very near to each other. And so, depending on the home, and we have a lot of seniors in that area as well that are on fixed income. So, for them, if they need repairs, this is really going to help them a lot as well.
It's one of those things, though. Like if you're if you're traveling and they ground your plane for technical reasons or mechanical problems, you want them to fix it.
Right. Exactly.
It's like, take your time and do it right.
Right.
Do whatever you need to do, because I don't want to get on that plane if there's a question mark about any bolt or piece of the engine. Just do it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that it's an inconvenience now for many.
Yes.
And I understand that Atmos is providing some cash assistance for those that need to stay in a hotel or whatever, which I think is great. But all of that toward getting it right.
Right. And
that's the most important thing. You don't want people going back in there if there's a question about whether they're going to be safe or not.
Right, because you can't. If they don't feel safe, and we do have some folks that are very scared, even with the gas off. They're like, I don't care, I don't want to be there, and that's their right. That's their ability to make that decision. You got to make the right decision for you and your family. And what Atmos has done is everybody in this affected area, they are providing a $250 a day per diem every 5 days. So, that was, if you saw on the news, like all these back lines, and it was a mess. Everybody can admit it. Everybody knows it was a hot mess, and there's, we can't take it back, but everything has been streamlined since then, to the point where when it first happened is they had to give everybody a cashier's check. And so that really added a lot of the issue and problems.
Why?
Because Atmos couldn't, Atmos made the decision to shut this gas off at midnight that day. If you want to say on Thursday, we were having calls and stuff to find out that this was happening, and once they made that decision, we had a 5 a.m. press conference, and and then they said by noon they were shutting all this gas off, and then at 4 p.m. these information centers would open where people could collect money that they needed, because there was just no way for them to be able to provide all the hotel rooms that might be necessary for everybody, because it was no longer an evacuation area. It is now just a gas shutoff area. But they wanted people to feel safe, and in order to give them peace of mind, they gave them, they offered $250 a day per diems. And of course, people with bigger families are getting a little bit more. Everybody has to appeal, but $250 a day is a kind of a federal guideline. And so the reason for the cashier's checks is they just couldn't get the debit cards in time.
Oh, okay.
So they were, it's a lot of debit cards. So, and I don't think they were running around to, CVS's and to buy them. And so they had the cashier checks got flown in from Amarillo. The plane was late. And then, and of course it's around 5 o'clock.
You can't go to a bank and cash it.
Right. Well, no, not just that, but Love Field to this area, Northwest Highway, Bachman Rec Center, and Walnut Hill, at 5 o'clock, 5:30 p.m. I mean, it was a cluster of errors, and were just unavoidable. And so everything instead of starting at 4, started at 5:36, and then people had already been waiting in line for hours. And but the good thing is, once everything started going, it did get very chaotic. As we were able to, through the Office of Emergency Management, I had made a call when I was with Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Medrano. We called, and the city did send over hamburgers and pizza and things for people to be able to eat. Some of our seniors, and then this was a miss, was that Atmos didn't really have people going down the line to tell people, you don't have to be here right now. If you don't need the money today, like tonight for a hotel room, you could come tomorrow or 3 days from now.
We're not going to penalize you for
right. There was no penalty. You got your full 5 days worth.
We need to take a break.
Sure.
And by the way, when you said 5 a.m. press conference, you might have noticed we weren't there.
I did notice. I was like, where is David Taffet? And I knew the late Patti Fink wouldn't be there. So.
Well, she was there, but she just got there at 9.
Oh, gotcha.
You're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 Knon FM. Our guest is Dallas City Councilman Omar Narvaez, and we'll be back with more Lambda Weekly right after this.
This is Rawlins Gilliland, and I'm listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3, and darn glad to be doing it.
And welcome back to Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet, and I'm here in the studio with Lerone Landis and the late Patti Fink. Our guest is Omar Narvaez. He is the Dallas City Council's newest council member. I do want to ask, the City Council voted this week to limit debates on the council to 5 minutes. You used to be able to talk for 10. They never had to limit it before. Why are your fellow City Council people so sick of hearing from you?
It's not from me. It's
oh no, that couldn't be it.
I probably actually at council, just on my estimation, probably speak the second least on the council. I just don't, and the reason I don't talk a lot is because I have some really amazing colleagues that are senior statesmen at this point, and they hit their buttons very quickly. They ask some really great questions, and sometimes I'm looking at my list of questions. I'm like, oh, that's been answered. That's been answered. Right. There's no need for me to ask a question or start speaking if the question's been answered. And I just believe that I don't need to talk for a sound bite for NBC or CBS or ABC or Fox
or Lambda
News.
Weekly.
Or Lambda Weekly,
Just throwing us in there.
So it's probably what, Sandy Grayson?
Sandy Grayson is the chair of the ad hoc committee, and she has some really great, amazing questions.
Oh, she does all the time. I don't picture her as the one who rambles on.
No, she doesn't ramble on. She,
Jennifer Gates. She doesn't seem to ramble.
There's
Adam.
Mr. Medrano, he does ramble on quite a bit. he's probably the one who speaks the least at the council.
Exactly.
It's a lot different. I like to do my work during our briefing meetings because I believe that's really where you should be asking questions and getting your homework done. And then, of course, I like to talk to staff one-on-one when I can so that I can have, so there's just things I don't understand. I'm not an expert on everything, unfortunately, and maybe I'll get there like Trump is, one day. But
you know more about North Dallas soil.
I know more about Northwest Dallas soil than I ever dreamed, and more about natural gas, than I ever dreamed I would. And I just think that's when let's get the work done in committee and, in our meetings with city staff. And then when we get to council, there are questions that need to be brought up, and there needs to be debate because I'm not on every committee and my colleagues aren't on every committee. So it's very fair, in my opinion, for them to ask questions if they have a question. But to limit our debate, I think was, in my personal opinion, I did vote against limiting our debate. And the rule that got changed to where, and they all thought this was a good idea, was that our time, so right now, or before, our time was 10 minutes flat. So if I asked staff a question, that was part of my 10 minutes. Well, now that 10 minutes, and that's actually how Congress does it too, and now they changed the rule to 5 minutes, but during your 5 minutes, and this was my argument, was that if I asked a question of staff, the time stops when staff starts answering. So in all honesty, if I'm really good,
you can expand your 10 minutes that you had before.
Yeah, and that's what I was explaining. Is like all of a sudden, because my question and answer Q&A time could end up, if you're really great, you could make it 15, 20, 30 minutes, because I could just be like, ask a staff member, like, could you please read me the yellow pages? Because I want to hear the yellow pages, like if I was that kind of guy, and I'm not going to. And then within there was like, oh, the chair has the ability. I'm like, the chair always had the ability to
cut off debate
or get somebody back in line to make sure it was germane to the topic. And I'm kind of known as the point of order guy at council now, because people get off topic, and and I'll give it a little bit, but when all of a sudden we're no longer debating the actual item, that's actually illegal. You have to be debating the actual item on the floor. And so I bring it back in and I try, and some colleagues don't like it because nobody wants to be point of ordered by a fellow colleague and then get basically told to be quiet and get back on topic.
So what was the point? What was the point of what was their intent to decrease the time for those who voted for it?
So the intent was to make sure that we are policing ourselves better as a council, and to make sure those that certain people who tend to go on and on and on and on would be reined in. Gotcha. And I'm not going to say who that person was that the council really was up against, but I will say Jim Schutz wrote a really great article about it in the Dallas Observer.
You could probably just go to the City of Dallas website and click on any of the archived meetings, right, and you'd know pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And and I think that's unfair, because it should really be, and most of the time nobody really ever takes that full 10 minutes. It's very rare. But sometimes you do. You need that time. And I just think, to have the 18 minutes each total between 3 rounds was it worked. It was acceptable. And I'm really worried that in the future, this rule that we changed on ourselves is really going to bite us later, because somebody's going to decide to be a real jerk about it and want the yellow pages read or something, but we did have a very lively debate. It was very spirited. It was open. and honest, and I'm okay with that. And even though the vote didn't go the way I wanted it to, and then we voted. Now we move on, and these are the new rules. Yeah.
And for our listeners out there who don't know what the Yellow Pages are,
I just aged myself.
Once upon a time, there was a book that was published by the phone company that had ads from businesses, and you could, it's called the Yellow Pages. They were all yellow.
It still exists, believe it or not.
It's online mostly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It's online now.
Yeah. Mostly.
And so you're listening to Lambda Weekly. Our guest is the elderly Omar Narvaez, who is on the Dallas City Council. Let's see, Leron, can you make him date himself even more?
Oh, God. Well, you dated. Now you're coming up on your 1 year anniversary.
Okay.
And so, how's it been? Is it what you expected? Any surprises?
I had been working along with some of my fellow colleagues, at City Hall, for many, many years, along with Patti, and I know David was down there reporting all the time. So, I felt very comfortable walking in. There are some surprises as far as I didn't realize how much zoning work we do as council members. So that was one thing.
So you'd be happier on the Houston City Council.
That's
where
exactly
they have
what
no
I was
Absolutely
zoning.
not. I am thrilled that we have zoning in Dallas. But at the same time, it's, and I've always been out in the community so much. I think the biggest surprise for my district and the constituents that live in District 6 is I don't think they ever realized how community oriented I was and would actually be. Because during campaigns, I get it, politicians, we say a lot of stuff and we make a lot of promises. And I hope that they see me making true of those promises. And I told them, I will be at your Crime Watch meetings. I will be at your neighborhood association meetings. Invite me to events in the district and I will show up if my schedule allows. And I think they're very surprised that I actually do show up. I go to neighborhood picnics and, I don't have an issue with it. And I'll go to, I've been invited to, quinceañeras and just little events that are important to our constituents and our residents. And I want to be there and be able to be part of that. And I think, now it's been about 7 months, and they're starting to really love it.
I think of former Vice President Joe Biden said the hardest elected office he ever had was a city council member.
Yeah.
And honestly, you guys are everywhere. We were laughing in the break because I did I worked in a class at the Dallas Police Academy on LGBT cultural competency on Thursday, and our outgoing LGBT liaison officer, Detective Laura Martin, was commenting that she'd left the gym and saw on the TV at 5 a.m. on Thursday that you and Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Adam Medrano were on TV, and I said at 5 a.m. I said, did they look at? She goes, oh yeah. But that's what you guys do.
Right.
I mean, and to think about every Crime Watch meeting and all the things that a council member does, are ribbon cuttings, and somebody's opening a new addition to a rec center, or whatever it might be. You've got to attend all that stuff. And that's a long day.
It can be a long day, and that day was the Thursday of all the if the gas shut-off area. So I'd actually been up to since Friday, over a week ago when the explosion happened. I'd been up, literally till 1 and 2 in the morning, sometimes 3, with constituents, either through Facebook Messenger, text messages, some phone calls. And, and then we're back at either City Hall or doing something every day, literally at 7 or 8 a.m. And then that night, because we found out at midnight, so that was about 2 or 3 more hours of work. And then it's like, okay, now you have a 5 a.m. press conference. And, I didn't put my suit on. I literally put my jeans on and, a decent dress shirt. And, I was like, I'm just putting on my jacket and, my warm jacket, and we're going to get out there. And, people kept telling me, you need to go home, take a nap. And I did have about an hour and a half break during lunch. And so I was like, okay, I'll do that. And they told me, just turn your phone off. You don't have to answer everybody's messages right now. I just couldn't turn it off. And so when I got back to the office, my assistant asked, she said, how much did you sleep? And I was like, do you really want to know? And she goes, yes. And I go, yes. And she looks at me, she goes, 30 minutes. And I was like, and I just put up a big 0 on my hand because people were messaging me, and I know they're scared and I know they want answers. And it's the job I asked for. And it's like, so if I don't get some sleep, I can only imagine what people in those homes at night trying to get some sleep, wondering, is my house going to explode? So I was like, I don't get to complain. They're the ones that get to complain, and it's slowing down now. Now things are getting better, and I actually got I've had 2 full nights of sleep the last 2 nights, so I'm back at I'm back at 100% right now. So
has Jesse filed for divorce yet?
He has not. Oh my God, my partner is so amazing. He really has been really supportive during this whole event. He knew, it was hard because he knew I wouldn't be home a lot, and I was out and about. And then Thursday was a tough day. It was a really, really tough day. And again, I was up till like 2 or 3 in the morning. And then by Friday midday, things really started to slow down and got back to a more like controllable. We can handle all this, and my amazing staff, they've also been working overtime and doing a lot of work, and so I can't do any of this without them either. And then of course the home life. And then Friday night, we had tickets to go see Bianca Del Rio at the Majestic, and so that I didn't realize how bad I just needed to guffaw laugh, and so it really de-stressed me, Friday night. So, and now the weekend has been, really good, and we're getting back to work.
City council is not meant to be a full-time job. Your staff works full-time for the city, but it wasn't meant. And you started off, you were a community educator for Lambda Legal.
That's correct.
And continued working full-time for a short time.
I did.
What did you find? You were just overwhelmed by...
Not that I was overwhelmed, but it was that Lambda was starting to go a different direction in what it was doing as a whole organization, and in a very positive way. And I am just one of those people that when I do something, I'm going to, sometimes it's my fault. It's like I'm going to give it my all, sometimes even when it's not like it's done and it's over, it's like I'm not going to give up, and, we're going to get there. And so I made the decision, that I just needed to do 100% for the job that I was out knocking on doors for months and months asking for, and that was city council. And so we made the decision. I mean, when I say we, like my partner was involved and my staff, and they were like, well, we think, don't worry, now we've been here 6 months, we can do it. And I'm like, no, you know what, I've already made that decision. I'm going to be a full-time city council person, and I'm glad I am, because Lambda is doing some amazing work, some really good victories lately in the courts on LGBT equality. And I just wanted to make sure that, I do right by Lambda, because I had 6.5 great years with Lambda Legal, and some amazing victories in the LGBT and HIV rights movements.
Mm-hmm. And they have many more queued up.
Yes, many more queued up.
There's a lot happening this coming year.
Yep, a lot happening, and that, they just have an amazing set of attorneys and staff members and everybody I work with, that are still there and that no longer are with Lambda. These are the people that their hearts, mind, soul, everything about them is making sure that our equality is achieved. And there's a lot of other organizations like that too, but I have experience with Lambda Legal, and but now I'm with the city, and I just decided I could do other things and still work on the equality movement, and and as a council member I have a little bit more authority and able to push and help push the things that we want as an LGBT community, but also my other identities, is whether I'm Latino or helping. Well, it's not my identity, but women's rights and things that are affecting our senior citizens. Because I'm not one of those yet. I know earlier we decided that I was elderly, but I'm getting there.
We're all in training.
It's radio, and our listeners trust me.
Right. Yes. And I hope that I have the ability to become a senior citizen. I was joking with my staff, and I said, after council, because who knows what the future holds, but I said after council, when I'm a senior citizen, I would love to end up on the Parks Board one day, and after that, then I want to be on the Senior Citizens Affairs Commission, and then, when I'm done with all of my political activism, then I just want to be that curmudgeon sitting in the back of every single town hall and every single meeting that just gets to scream and yell and rant and rave, because I just showed up for my cookies and punch and food, but everybody has to respect me because I was their former council member and I've been around forever, but then they let me just do what I want, and then I leave and they do what they're going to do anyway.
Living the dream. Living the dream, Omar.
We need to go to a break in a minute, but so when Angela Hunt was on, while she was on the council, she announced her bid for governor. on our show.
Did she really?
Yes, she did.
David
and she still laughs. She still laughs about that.
Thankfully.
She wasn't on my ballot.
See her either.
But
the wrong primary.
you left your career with Lambda Legal, and you've started on a new political career. You're term limited after 4 terms, so
That's right.
you can serve for 8 years. The mayor will be term limited in another year.
That's right.
Are you announcing that you're running for mayor?
I am not announcing I am running for mayor. I will announce what I'm running for next, which is re-election to the current seat I have in 2019. So,
But you could do a Sandy Grayson. You could go for your 4 terms.
Yep.
And go fallow for a
you have to be gone for 2 years.
Yeah,
Right, for one term.
there are
Right, for
2 on the council now who did that.
yeah, and then come
techni-
back. You could do
technically
another
kind of
8.
3, because Miss Grayson was gone for 4 and then came back. So, and she's
I didn't know
finished.
you could do that.
You just have to be gone for one term.
Yeah, because Tanel Atkins and
Mr.
Dwayne
Caraway are
Caraway
back.
are both.
And they were gone for
Both
1
of them.
term.
So is it 4 terms total or 4 terms consecutive?
No, 4
consecutively.
consecutive terms.
Okay.
Because Sandy Grayson's in her second fourth term.
Yeah, because right now officially Miss
She did
Grayson
8 years, and then she went fallow
Right.
for 2 terms
And now
while
she's
Ron
back.
Gatinsky was on, and then she's back, and she's about to finish her 8 years again.
Right. So she right now, as we speak, Miss Grayson is the longest ever serving person on the Dallas City Council.
And you know what I love about that is because she's able to go, I remember
That's right.
in 2003
Yeah.
when we passed this, the discussion was about this.
Yeah.
And she has
we,
that.
we do that in my office, and we have 2 people who say, "Oh, 1990, I wasn't born yet," and our answer is, "Shut up, Stephen." You're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 Knon FM. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis and late Patti Fink. We're talking to Dallas City Councilman Omar Narvaez, and we'll get him to admit that he's really out to replace Donald Trump, and we'll see how his career path takes him. We'll be back with more right after this.
Hi, this is Valletta Lil, and I listen to Lambda Weekly. I hope that you will too.
We're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 Knon FM. Our guest is Omar Narvaez.
So, I've been to several other cities, and one of the things that I see, like when I go to Seattle or Vancouver, is you see they're biking cities. You see a lot of bikes around. And I've always wondered or hoped that Dallas would be one of those cities, and voila, it looks like it's becoming that. I see bikes everywhere, but now you hear about if they're not picked up or placed in the right place, they're going to be taken away. Can you clarify what's going on with the bikes?
So I knew I wasn't going to get through this without talking about bike shares.
We were coming down Ross the other day, and there was this grocery cart from a nearby grocery store out there, and I said, "Look, a lime cart."
Yeah, you can't miss them.
So right now, and this is the part that, however you take it, whether it was good or bad, is the council, when they first voted on this, it was right before I got on the council, so it wasn't one of my votes.
It's not him to blame.
It wasn't me to blame. Yeah, I still get to do that until the next term, and then after that, it's like you don't get to blame it on others. So, I'm all in favor of bike share. I think bike share is great. Mm-hmm. I'm glad we have it. So just so people understand and know is that we don't have any regulations on bike share at this time in Dallas. And it was done on purpose so we can kind of see what the free market does. And I think it was a smart thing to do. Has it gotten out of control and out of hand? Yes, it absolutely has. The council is aware. We all get it.
And just to note, we have 20,000 bikes on the street.
Correct.
And we have more bikes on the street than any other city.
That's correct. The city of New York has 10,000, and the city of Dallas has 20,000. So if that tells you we have too many.
And we have like 5 vendors.
We do have 5 vendors at this time. So the council later this month, or it could be very early April, but I'm pretty sure it's later this month, the transportation committee will get briefed on bike share and some of the regulations that will be proposed, and then they're going to come up with an actual regulation. And I think this is smart that let's do it regulation in the smart way, so that we get there and then people can still enjoy these. But the number of bikes is excessive.
Without actual proposals that will go into law, do you have some suggestions? Because I have a few that are just common sense things.
I do. So one, limit the number of bikes. I think I don't know the magic number, but less than 10,000. I think 6,000. Also, a requirement that shows how many bikes can be within a certain amount of feet of each other, depending on the density of the area. So a more dense area obviously could use more bikes than a big suburban area that may not need some. Also, I believe that we should have designated areas for pickup and drop off, but not those stands. I like bike stands, but I don't personally. I'm not in favor of those things like they have in New York or some of the other cities. They're very, very expensive. They cost about $6 million a year. We don't have the money for that. But the free bikes, I think, is a good idea. And then within there, I would like to see, like at the airport, if you need one of those carts, like you have a lot of luggage, they're called smart carts, I think, and you put in, I don't know the number, I've never had to use one personally, but you put in like 50 cents, and then if you return the thing to its rack,
he's aging himself.
Okay, if you get your 50 cents back. So one of the ideas that I've given is that
kind of the Aldi approach, too.
Right? Like Aldi, and so if you when you get on the app, you want to use one. Maybe there's I'm making up a number, but maybe there's $1 surcharge. But if you put the bike back in a designated area, because it's all GPSed, so you draw the square or rectangle, like this is where it is, or a bike stand, a bike rack that you could put on, and you put, there's a GPS thing on there. So as long as it gets put back within, so many feet of that area, that designated area, then you get your $1 back. But if you choose not to, because maybe you were running late to something, or it's just too far away and you don't want to walk anymore, and you leave it there, then the $1 gets kept, and that'll help with picking up the bikes faster, as well as for the city if we need to pick bikes up.
Here's another one that's just practical. I know Lime Bike has a huge warehouse down towards Fair Park, and great facility that they have. They also have trucks that reposition, pick up. I sent a message out on Dallas Voice's webpage. There was a picture of bikes just thrown in the river bottoms, and I said people need to pick up their bikes, because otherwise, with the rising water, they're going to just get floated away. But during the winter, we don't need as many bikes out as during the summer. I know Lime Bike has this big facility. They should have picked up some of their bikes before it got icy.
Right.
You just don't. People are not going to bike ride that much in February, as they are in probably May.
And when you hear people, I think that's a great idea, and I'll definitely bring that up, and we can ask. And I think it's so important for folks to know that, I hear a lot of folks go, I've never seen anybody use one. I've never seen one use one.
I see all the time.
I do all the time.
Yeah.
And it might just be that, you're just not seeing it because maybe you're in a car and you're driving, to work and back, and you just happen to miss somebody at that time. But in the more dense areas, and especially because my district does have the Trinity in it, and, I have Trinity Grove as well as the Continental Bridge, which is now the Ron Kirk Bridge, and, I have the big Margaret Hunt Hill Bridge and the trails that are down there. A lot of people really utilize them, and I know at White Rock Lake as well as Katy Trail. But again, we don't need 4,000 bikes at White Rock Lake. I'm making up a number. I don't think they have.
I live over by the lake, and I think it's very interesting. There's a neighbor of mine down the street that has one sort of parked in her yard.
Yeah.
And she uses it. She brings it back home.
Yep.
It's there at the ready
when she needs it. I in my district in West Dallas, I had a constituent ask because her son uses it to go to work, and so because it was brand new for us, we didn't have any in West Dallas, and I had asked for them to put some maybe at the parks, just 4, 4 or 8, just a few. So my residents,
there are 20,000. I think they can afford 4.
Yeah. And so she had asked because they didn't know, and it was foreign, and it was brand new for my part of my district. And they did put them out, and they're being utilized, and we see people using them. And her question really was, because they didn't really understand it, was, does he always have to leave it at the park? And I said, well, no, he can leave it in your front yard, or he can leave it anywhere. I go, but if somebody hits it, it has to be accessible. I go, but if somebody uses it, then he's going to have to walk back to the park to get a new one. But yeah, he can do that. And so and nobody's
That's what
really
my neighbors do. I think it's just always there. Nobody takes it.
Right.
She pedals away. Comes home.
Do you know what I think part of the complaints
are? It was fantastic. So
part of the complaints. I'm a bike rider, and I have been for years. People don't like bikes on the road,
right?
Especially on the northern side of this city. I have always felt safer when I've been bike riding down an Oak Cliff.
And
always.
And that's something that the cities we've got to be much more cognizant about. Not just drivers, but the city itself. We have to build a better bike infrastructure, and it has started. I think more in the southern end. You've probably seen more bike infrastructure, which are the bike lanes or bike share lanes with cars, and also it's going to be one of these things. Like, I'm sure there was a time when the first cars, I wasn't around for it, even though David will say that I probably was, but
you were.
When the first cars,
how would David know unless he was there too?
Right. So when the first cars came out, people probably freaked out about those as well, like because they were foreign, you weren't used to seeing them, and I don't want to share it with my horse and buggy, And then with time, things changed, and I think the same thing with the bikes. At first, it was foreign, and people didn't like them, and once they started to get to understand them and know them, I'm hearing less and less complaints. I do still hear complaints, don't get me wrong, but they're legitimate, and it's things that we're going to be working towards, and then get these smart regulations, because we don't want to over-regulate it to where then nobody wants to bike share in the city of Dallas. And I don't know if the answer is, taking away, like, we only have one bike share company or two. I kind of like having the different bikes, but maybe it's a limit on the numbers each bike share company is allowed to have, or I don't know. And plus, when they're all sitting together, I think they're pretty, like all the yellow and the green.
I like seeing them.
Another thing is they're just getting going.
Right. It hasn't even it's only been 6 months.
They need to know where they need to reposition bikes.
Right.
And they'll learn that, especially this summer. We haven't gone through a summer with these bikes yet.
Right. We ended the summer, and now we're getting the data. We ended the summer when they first started hitting the ground.
We haven't done a whole season with
everything,
with all these bikes and 5 companies.
Right. You know what I think you need to do?
That's a good call out. Thanks.
I have a recommendation. I think you need to, you and others on the council need to go to Vancouver, British Columbia. For one, it's a great trip. And two, they have mastered the bike lanes.
They really have.
And, learn, like, soak it up, like best practices. This is the way it's done, and it works. And there are an incredibly walkable city and bikeable city, and you can really get around, and it's in a big city,
right?
And there's lots of suburbs, and it's got compact land, and it's high rises and all of that.
Skyscrapers,
vibrant downtown.
Oh wow!
But it's a big city, and so I think that would be a great trip and worth your time. Plus, it would be really fun.
I'll check and see if we can get an economic development transportation trip up to Vancouver.
I mean, you should see it done right.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Everybody taking notes and talking to the right authorities, and how did you do this, and what would you do differently if you could do it now, and because they've got a wonderful system. People use them. Those bikes sometimes are more than cars.
One of the other things, speaking about mobility in things other than cars in the city, more and more I'm seeing bikes at the DART stations.
Yes.
But when they're repositioning, that's a great place to reposition more bikes to, is the train stations.
And that's something that that the bike, and again, having this free market for a while, that the bike companies already have the data. They know what's going on. Everything is GPS, and all of a sudden they started to realize that the avid users that besides just recreational users, but the avid users are people using the train system. So it's that they're using it to get them that last mile or half mile.
They're compensating for DART rails.
Inability to get them where they want to get in a timely fashion. Right. And that, like the story I told earlier about the young man who lives in one of my neighborhoods, is because he could take DART, but he'd have to go all the way to downtown and back over. But it's only like a mile or mile and a half, but there's no bus that gets him directly there that would take in time because it would take him over an hour by the time he connected, and I can't remember, they were explaining it to me, and I was like, no, I get it. So this is something that would really help him, or is helping him to get where he needs to go in a timely manner.
Mentioning DART, I think it was a week or two ago. Every year they come out with the cities with the worst traffic, ranked in order, and this was the first time that Dallas is ranked ahead of Houston, even though Dallas is a smaller city. Traffic is that bad here.
Right.
Was Austin higher than Dallas?
No.
Should have been.
No.
Oh, I think so, because it's horrific.
It is pretty bad. But so I just wonder, what are DART's plans for more rail lines?
So, they want to build this thing called the Cotton Belt in far north Dallas, or not even north Dallas, far north Plano, and cross that would connect west to east to the airport. That's $1 billion project that most of the Dallas City Council, already came out not in favor of, because we want the D2 line in downtown. And here's the big mistake, that I believe DART has made, is they're so proud of having the most rail of any city in the United States and like all this rail, but the problem is it's not an effective use of rail. And most cities that I've been to, like you all were talking about Vancouver, I know New York and DC, and it's, what do these cities do? It's in these most dense, compact areas, and all of a sudden everybody's riding the train because it's so much easier than getting a car.
It's where you are and where you want to be.
Right. And and
DART doesn't even think like that.
No, they
That's
don't.
like, where's some land we could get?
And the big thing that helped Houston is Houston revamped all of their bus lines, because Houston doesn't have light rail, very, very limited light rail.
They have like a 10-stop light rail that goes from the Astrodome through the museum and hospital district to downtown and back. It just starts there, goes there, and back.
Kind of like the streetcar, but the streetcar connects to DART, the rail, but it's our bus lines. And so like in West Dallas, even Northwest Dallas, we have one stop in all of Northwest Dallas in my district. And then, there's two. There's the Bachman and there's the Harry Hines stop, and but nobody even lives in that area. They live close to, but it's in a business area. But it's not places, anyway.
You can't get to it easily.
You can't get to it easily. And West Dallas, there's nothing even close. So if you're in Ledbetter, which is at Loop 12 and 30, there's no rail over there. And that would include Far West Oak Cliff. There's no way to get to rail. So you have to get on a bus, get downtown, and there's no lines that get you directly to where you want to get. And that's the thing that Houston revamped. And I think that's what's probably helped, is now all of a sudden people are getting faster to where they need to get on the bus. And to get to work, it should be no more than 45 minutes on a bus. The bus should take twice as long as it would take you on a car. And to me, people would want to do it.
Well,
if it's taking you an hour and it was a 15-minute car ride.
From my house, 2 miles from my office, in traffic, because I live in Oak Lawn, in traffic it can take me 20 minutes to go those 2 miles. I can ride my bike faster. If I were to take DART, there's a DART station across the street from my house. I can walk over to DART, wait for the train, 5-10 minutes. It's about a 15-minute ride downtown. Then take a bus back out to my office. That bus misconnects generally, and so it would be about an hour ride.
Right.
So I can either walk or take my bike faster than I can drive sometimes, or take DART.
Right, and that's the thing that that DART has to revamp. And for me personally, I just believe that DART has DART does some things really well. They do light rail really well as far as building it. What they don't do well is really seeing where the people using DART, especially the bus lines, want to go. And we have to
where they are and where they want to go. That's where they screw it up. And I can't believe that the city council all these years ago. We have 8 seats, a majority of the seats on the DART board, the Dallas area rapid transit, and we don't have a stop in front of City Hall. People go there to pay their bills. They go there to conduct business. There are over 13,000 employees of the city of Dallas. Now they don't all work in City Hall, but there's a big chunk that do.
Actually, you don't go to City Hall to pay those bills anymore. It's across the street now.
It all moved it moved across the street.
But old people who remember back in the day.
But you really should be able to go to City Hall.
The biggest, our central library is right across from City Hall. So either way.
Omar, we're completely out of time. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
And
get some more rest.
I'm back. I'm good again.
And our guest, Omar Narvaez, he is Council District 6. and running for governor. So congratulations, and but not this
32.
time.
I don't know.
Not this time. It'll be in a few years. We'll be back next week. Our guest is Valerie Hefner, who is running for the state legislature from Sherman. She's a mama bear. You're going to love her.
And don't forget, Tuesday is Election Day. Vote in the Democratic or Republican primaries.
7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
This is William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, please leave comments below, or like, follow, or subscribe to us and get notices of all our videos. We love it, even when you call.